Hello, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ryobi RY40250 40-volt cordless trimmer. So let's get started. At the back of the trimmer we have the motor head as well as the battery slot. Please keep in mind that this is a brushed trimmer and not a brushless trimmer. Moving further up, we have the grip as well as the variable speed trigger. The trigger also has a built-in safety which will help prevent the trimmer from turning on accidentally. Please keep in mind that this trimmer does not have a high or low setting switch, and that must be controlled via the trigger. Next we have the handle, which attaches via a wing nut. Next we have the attachment point for different attachments. And last but not least, we have the RYSST44 trimmer attachment. And here for a quick reference, this is how it looks next to the Ryobi's 18-volt attachment capable trimmer. Now here are some clips to show you how it looks and how it sounds. And speeding it up to 2 times speed. After reviewing the 18-volt version of Ryobi's attachment-capable trimmers, I was a little bit worried that the 40-volt version would be back-heavy. However, this did not turn out to be the case. The back end of the 40-volt version is heavier, but I think the increase in weight is well made up for in the fact that you get a longer runtime and more power out of the 40-volt version. Overall, if you have a few acres or if you have to deal with weeds more than you have to deal with grass, I think you're going to be much happier with the 40-volt version of the attachment-capable trimmer. The 18-volt version is nice, but it just doesn't quite have enough power to be able to get through some of the thicker weeds and not jam up. The 40-volt version still jams up, but it does it far less than the 18-volt version does. The two weeds I was having the most trouble with were vineweed and the Western Classic tumbleweed when it's still green and still in the ground. I'd probably say that 90% of the jams I got came from those two types of weeds. With the 18-volt version of the attachment-capable trimmer, I was getting roughly around 10 to 15 minutes of runtime with a 4 amp-hour battery. With the 40-volt version of the attachment-capable trimmer, I was getting roughly about 35 to 40 minutes of runtime with a 4 amp-hour battery. I think the 40-volt version of the battery just does a better job of keeping a constant power supply to the trimmer head, so you're able to chop through some of the thicker and heavier weeds better. Also, this will help if you choose to purchase any of the attachment heads for the trimmer. I don't even want to think what the 18-volt version of the attachment-capable trimmer would be like if you use the cultivator head with it. Weight-wise, the 18-volt version of Ryobi's attachment-capable trimmer with a 4 amp-hour battery is a little over 10 pounds. And Ryobi's 40-volt brushed version of the attachment-capable trimmer using a 4 amp-hour battery is a little over 10.5 pounds. So it's about half a pound more than the 18-volt version when both versions are using their respective 4 amp-hour batteries. The 18-volt version of the attachment-capable trimmer is slightly longer than the 40-volt brushed version, but it's not necessarily usable length. It has more to do with the fact that the battery on the back sticks out further. If you take that into account, they are about the same length. There are some differences in between the grips, but honestly, you really can't tell when you're holding onto them. The only real difference is on the 18-volt brushless version, there is a selector switch in between high and low, and the brushed version has no switch whatsoever. Another difference in between the two trimmers is that the 18-volt brushless trimmer came with an angled handle, and the 40-volt version brushed came with a straight handle. Now this is a little confusing for me because on the website it clearly shows that the 40-volt brushed version comes with an angled handle as well. I suspect when the brushless version of the 40-volt trimmer came out, they decided to downgrade the brushed version's handle in order for there to be a bigger difference in between the two. Overall, it's not that big of a deal, however, it's just a little annoying. Now I want to show you how easy it is to replace the trimmer line in this trimmer, and how to reassemble the head if you take it apart. Now the first thing I do when I'm reassembling the trimmer is I place the spring onto the upper head housing. It should just stay in place. Next I grab the lower string housing and the bump knob. And then I place the bump knob inside the lower string housing. And then you line up the two arrows on the bump knob and on the lower string housing so that they're facing each other. It's a little hard to tell in the video about the arrows, so I included this picture to show you what I'm talking about. Next you're going to grab the spool and place it on top of the bump knob and inside the lower string housing. When placing the spool inside the lower string housing, you want to make sure that the grooves on the spool will feed into the ridges on top of the bump knob and that it goes all the way down, otherwise you will not be able to reattach the lower string housing to the upper string housing. Once you have everything seated, line up the two arrows on the upper string housing and on the lower string housing and push them together, and then twist into the locking position. Next I double check to make sure everything looks like it's properly aligned. Next you'll want to make sure that the arrows on the bump head and on the lower string housing are facing each other. Next, grab your trimmer line. You can buy pre-cut lengths or you can cut your own length. The length should be about 10 feet. Once you have your trimmer line, go ahead and feed it through the hole until it comes out on the other side. You'll want to make sure that there's an even amount of trimmer line on both sides of the trimmer head. Once you have an even amount on both sides, go ahead and start winding the bump knob and it should start pulling the line into the trimmer. Make sure you stop before the trimmer line is completely pulled into the head. I usually leave about 6 inches of line on either side of the head. And that is how you replace the line in this trimmer. Next, let's look at some of the pros and cons of this 40-volt trimmer. Well balanced, neither end of the trimmer feels too heavy. Of course, this depends on the attachments and batteries. Easy to replace line. It is very easy to replace the line on this trimmer just like on the 18-volt version. Lightweight. This trimmer's weight is significantly less than, say, a gas trimmer. Great reach. This will help you to get into the harder to reach areas like underneath trailers and vehicles. Attachment capable. This trimmer can use attachments from Ryobi's expanded line. Long run time. I was getting about 35 to 40 minutes of runtime using the trimmer attachment with this trimmer. Of course, this depends on what size battery you are using and which attachment you are using. 40-volt battery. The 40-volt battery supplies a better constant power to the trimmer head, helping you to cut through weeds and thicker grass easier. However, the downside to this is that the 40-volt platform batteries are more expensive. Soft plastic. The plastic on this trimmer scratches easily. No sling point. You can buy a third-party sling attachment for this trimmer, however it would have been nice if Ryobi had included one out of the box. A sling is useful if you're having to carry 2 tools at once or if you're older. Bad heat vent placement. It's a good thing to have lots of heat vents. However, one of the heat vents is directly underneath your arm and will get uncomfortable if you use this trimmer for an extended period of time. It doesn't get too hot, it's just more of an uncomfortable kind of thing. No high-low switch. I'm a little bit disappointed that this trimmer did not have a high or low switch on it. The 18-volt version of this trimmer does have the high and low switch, as well as the 40-volt brushless version of this trimmer. I think in the long run it was more of a fact to try to get you to buy the brushless version over this version. However, I think people will buy that because it's brushless, not because it has a high or low switch. And that is it for the pros and cons. Overall, I think it's a fantastic trimmer. And with 5,785 5-star reviews at the time of this recording, I don't think I'm alone in this opinion. Yes, 40-volt batteries are more expensive. However, if you get a 40-volt mower and a 40-volt blower and a 40-volt trimmer, I think in the long run you'll be happier, especially if you're still using gas and going to the gas station every 5 minutes to pick up gas for your gas trimmer, your gas mower, or your gas blower. And using 40 volt lawn equipment has the added benefit of not annoying that cranky old lady who lives down the street. Unless you really enjoy annoying that cranky old lady who lives down the street. And overall, I'm very happy with this trimmer, and I'm glad that I upgraded from the 18 volt to this. I'm still going to keep the 18 volt for quick and light work, or if I need to take it somewhere with some of my other tools. However, the 40 volt will probably be my go-to around the yard. And if I ever have to deal with one of these, I want to take it out as quick as possible to prevent my ears from bleeding. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And have a nice day, or night, or early morning, or whatever time it is.